warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our session, how to create and pitch a killer business presentation. Let's jump to the topic and show you actually how you should go out and pitch. Let's take Khaled as an example, okay?
Hello, is that working?
Yeah.
Hello, good morning everyone. Sorry, I'm not like 100%. How can I use this actually? Is it these or this?
Oh, sure.
So I'm not 100% ready actually, as Cubic asked me to do this last night. So hopefully I'm prepared. As you can see, I'll be speaking about the car industry. Maybe most of you know like the history of cars and how it got created, or how like people actually started producing and selling cars. But I have a small explanation about the motor car vocab. So motor car, any self-propelled vehicle with more than 2 wheels and a passenger compartment capable of being steered by the operator for use on roads. Oh, Google Translate, sorry about that. The term is used more specifically to denote any such vehicles designed to carry a maximum of 7 people. That's mainly the translation. So as you can see here as well, how people communicate, like how do they actually like created the niche market of like being numbered and then arrowed through each other and to create the relationship. And over here, this is the social business power map. I think it's clear enough. Can you read it? Or should I go through it? Okay. Okay. So the modeling customer dynamics, as you can see here, this is showing you how they're connected to each other. So the model 1 is the loss for good, and model 2 is always the share. This is the. So should I keep going, or can you read this actually? You can't read it?
Yeah, we can.
It's pretty clear. You can?
Here.
So should I read or?
I think you did a job. Thank you very much. So this was obviously correction. This was obviously a bad example how to not deliver the message, how you should not present. That was the objective, what you should not do. You obviously you have to know that this is not your audience, but the audience is over there. You should obviously talk with the audience and engage them. You should have slides that actually make sense. And today we're going to talk about it. But before we start, let's put things into the right context. We have, as Cubic, Qatar Business Incubation Center, 2 customer segments. Everything we do starts with customers, in the middle is a customer, and it ends with a customer, nothing else. So entrepreneurs in an idea stage, we call them startups. And their focus is to search for the right business model in order to become young companies with a significant potential to scale. And the second customer group is these young companies. We don't call them SMEs, as we don't believe that entrepreneurs wakes up in the morning and says, hey, when I grow up, I want to become an SME. No, they want to become a big company. So therefore, we call them that's why we call them scale-ups. These are young companies that have a significant potential to scale. Their objective is to execute a known business model. Yeah? The first group, they're searching for a business model. The second group, they found it, and it's all about focusing on executing a business model in order to generate extraordinary growth, in order to become big companies that go out and change the world. Today we're talking about a business plan and how to pitch it. In this context, business plans for startups is pretty bad, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow. Tomorrow's session, it's called Burn Your Business Plan, how to successfully start a company. If you're a first-time entrepreneur and you want to start a company, business plan is the worst thing that you can do. And tomorrow's session, we're going to talk about how to successfully start a company. However, business plan is very important for the right segment, which is young companies that already have a proven business model. And a proven business model, once you have a proven business model, what you then do is you sit down and actually write a business plan. Business plan should be fact-based. Once you identify this business model, then you're going to write a business plan that is fact-based, which is really all about operations and financial projections. So the overall objective of today is to better understand how investors think, to organize, clarify your thoughts. It's to develop an outline for a great business presentation and pitch a killer business presentation in order to really deliver an insanely great message. At the end, we want you to help to get ready for seed and invest seed and funding. Before we start, this is very important to understand. If you have a great business idea, but if you can't convince enough other people, actually it doesn't matter. So it's very important, once you have a great business idea, to go out and convince others that you have a great business idea. The second is pitching as an art and as well as science associated with it. The art is the way you work through the room. Yeah? The way you deliver your enthusiasm. The way you show your skills as a presenter. And then on the other hand is the science. The science lies in the formalistic approach to the way you present a presentation. It should have particular formulas. It's like a science. The better formulas you use, the better outcome you have. So your job is to combine both the art and the science in order to significantly increase the chance of a desired outcome, which is in most cases getting money, which is called funding. Yeah? Pitching is really art and a science, and you need to do both. With art alone, you won't convince anybody. With science alone, you won't convince. You need really both. It's not just about the content, but as well, how do you gonna deliver an experience? Not about the message, but an experience. So in today's session, we're gonna talk about the bad and the good news in business presentation, followed by understanding an investor. If you want to go out and pitch, you have to understand how an investor thinks. Investors thinking differently than you and I. And before you go out, you have to identify who they are and how do they think. And then we're going to talk about the hard facts, which means what to pitch, followed by how to pitch. These are the soft skills. And then at the end, lessons learned. And in the middle, we're going to ask you questions. If you answer the questions correctly, Eva, which is one of my colleagues, is going to give you a prize. In this context, I would like to welcome all of you, and as well our colleagues. If you have a question, not just come to me, but ask all of our team members. Over there is Eva, Isa, Khalid, who was obviously faking the presentation, Rawan, and Ali. Okay, let's start with the success formula of a new venture. Any successful startup has really leveraged three things. Number one is an opportunity. In the opportunity, when you go out and search for the right opportunity, you ask questions such as, what is the market? What are their needs? And how will your product actually serve these needs? What are the value proposition? Why are you unique? What about your competition? And how are you better than anybody in the industry? Once you identify the great business opportunity, the next is you have to go out and convince other people to join you in your startup. And this is the most important and first challenge of an entrepreneur, to look for the right team members. If you can't convince another one to join you, you won't convince a customer to buy your product or services, and you won't be able to convince an investor to invest in your company. So it starts right in the beginning. You have to go out and convince other people. First step is convincing other potential team members to join your startup. And these team members have particular personalities and skills. The personalities, besides team player and hard worker, is particular being a good listener. Unfortunately, entrepreneurs, they go out, they're not listening. They are talker. They go out and, sorry to say that, they go out and throw up and all the knowledge that they believe they have. But it's the worst thing that you should do. You should go out and be actually a good listener. Not talking, but listen. It's so difficult to listen. It's much easier for all of us to talk rather than to listen. And then the team should have particular skill set, such as a salesperson or self-starter, managerial domain, any kind of technical and business expertise. For example, if your startup or your company is an app developer, if you don't have an app developer and your founding team members, then you really have a problem. You can't source these things out. The core asset must be in-house. Very, very important. And once you have it, you go out and look for the right resource. The resource is not just money, but it's your personal network, the network of other people that you know, and as well the intellectual property, which is called the IP, and others. Okay, now you're going to hear some things that you might not like it, but that's just reality. So let's talk about some bad news about presentations. Unfortunately, in many cases, it's about pretending. The presenter is in the front and pretends to be motivated, right? I'm motivated. In the audience, they're pretending to be interested. Everything what we do, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, it's really about faking. Because it's based on wrong and bad assumptions. Let me just say it again. Because it's based on wrong and bad assumptions. Let's talk about these bad assumptions and wrong assumptions. Number one, you think that as a presenter, the audience cares about you and what you're doing. In most cases, they actually don't. Number two, the audience is very thinking about what you're saying very, very carefully. In most cases, not all cases, they are not. And the third is the audience can grasp all the complexity, as Khalid was saying before, all the details. The audience will be able to capture it right in the beginning. You know what? They can't, and not only they can't, but they won't. These are the bad assumptions that presenters can have, which is unfortunately the truth that you won't be able to read in any kind of a textbook. But it's very important as a presenter to know about these facts. These are real facts, not 100%, but probably 90%. If you go to a pitch and you are, let's say, between lunch and the audience is you're standing in front, you have to pitch. So getting the attention is very, very difficult. And you have to know all these things. If you know it, then you can prepare for it. So the bad news is, in a business presentation, unfortunately, that number one, it's about incompetent management. The presenters are incompetent. They have an insufficient market opportunity. They underestimate the competition, poor market understanding, lack of focus, and all the other points. You have to be really very, very aware and go through one at a time. And the most important is incompetent management. You have to make sure that you have a team that consists of your core assets of your business. If you do not cover the core assets in your business, you will have very, very difficulties to finding an investor. So the good news is that good business presentations have a strong management team. It's a strong management team that know each other not only in the good times, but as well bad times. They had some history together. As a team, it's like a marriage. You have to make sure that you choose the right partner for your company. And number two, there is a strong customer traction. Let me say it again. The more customer traction and a strong team you have, the significantly higher probability you have to raise money. If you don't have a strong management team and have no customer traction, you better don't go out and pitch. Now let's talk about how actually an investor thinks before we talk about what to pitch and how to pitch. Before you go out, you need to understand who's your audience and how are they thinking. Otherwise, you just deliver a message, but the audience will not grasp it. So this is the way investors think. Number one, from the entrepreneur's perspective, entrepreneurs are always optimistic and they're focusing on success. Of course, we are so convinced about our idea. Our baby is so beautiful. We want to defend our baby, and I'm sure this is the best, most beautiful baby that the market ever produced. Investors, on the other hand, they are skeptical and they're focusing on risk. The reason for it is that most startup companies, let me say the numbers, between 90 to 95% of all startups never reach the third birthday. Let me say it again, you might not like it, but that's just the reality. Most startups don't survive the third year. And that's the reason why investors are skeptical and they're focusing on potential risks. Entrepreneurs focusing on success, very optimistic, and investors talk a completely different language. They are not only pessimistic, but they are focusing on the potential risks. They're talking two different levels. It's very important as when you go out and pitch that you have to understand how an investor thinks. And investors have a very, very short attention span. And they're easily distracted with vague information or lack of a convincing story. If you go out and pitch only theory but no facts, you will have a very difficulty. The more facts you produce, the more likely is an investor to invest in your company. In other words, be brief and focus on the meat of the business. Get rid of all the fluff and focus on the meat of the business. From an investor's point of view, a good pitch has several elements. Number one, it's brief. It goes straight to the point. Straight to the point, get rid of the fluff. No introduction, etc. Start with I'm a bad. Go to the point, straight to the point. The second is it has an attractive, very attractive overall appearance. And it's very well organized with pages, numbers. I hope this has some numbers. Yes, it has numbers. Quick check. And it is market-oriented, not product-oriented. You might not like it, but investors, they really don't care about the products that you have. They really don't care. They're only focusing on the return on investment. They're looking at the business perspective. The question they're going to ask is it from the customer's point of view? What does the customer say? Show and deliver your message focusing on the customer's point of view. Make it market-oriented, not product-oriented. And last but not least, show evidence. Everything you say, you must prove. You must prove. And the best proof for investors are contracts or revenues in cash, contracts, at least LOI, letter of intent, memorandum of understanding, etc. Any kind of customer traction. Don't go to an investor and just pitch an idea with no customer traction. Typical investor gets 100 pitches every week. So if you want to get their attention, make sure it's brief, short, and it has real content, proven content. Now let's see what is a different formula that the investor uses in order to make a decision. Yeah, very simple. They're just adding plus and minus together. Number one, what they're going to ask is, what about the market attractiveness? The market attractiveness is all about the market needs, the market trends, the market growth, and how easy is it to access the market. Number two, it's about a product differentiation. It's your value proposition. It's your unique selling proposition. It's the profit margin of the product. And then what they do is they just add them together. These are the good things. These are the expected return. And then on the other hand, they ask you questions with regard to managerial capabilities. They look at the management and say, what kind of management skills do they have? What kind of financial skills do they have? What kind of technical skills do they have, etc. And then last but not least is the resistance to threats. What about if the underlying platform is going to be obsolete? What about if the law changes and all of these threats, if they happen, do you have a plan B? So what they then do is they take the managerial capabilities of resistance to threat as a perceived risks, and then what they do is simple math, plus and minus. And that's a simple way of how an investor thinks and makes a decision. And you have to know about it, otherwise you're pitching completely in the wrong direction for the wrong customer segments. This is the way investors think. Winston Churchill said once, he or she who plans to fail actually plans, he or she fails to plan, plans actually to fail. This is very, very important. As we said earlier, not for startup companies, but for young established companies that have a proven business model, it's really about having a good plan and focusing on the plan. Now, let's talk about what to present. These are the hard skills. There are some general rules. Number one, make it more or less 1 minute per slide. Just a roughly estimate, 1 minute per slide. And put the quick key facts up front, and we're going to talk about it. It has nothing to do with an executive summary that you normally hear in the textbooks. It's something completely different. It's something that's really very, very condensed. Quick facts up front. Use pictures and illustrates. And balance creativity, but still deliver the message, which means be creative. Obviously, don't lie, but be creative. Yeah? Be creative. Stand out of the crowd. And write in objectively. Don't write down my company, my product. The moment you say my company, my product, guess what? Nobody's going to invest in your company, in your product, because you own it. Say it, it's the company, yeah, in the third person. It's not yours, it's not his or her, it's the company. Talk in the third person. Very, very important. And focus on the initial 2 years. And important is to remember that the attention span of any investor or any audience is at the highest at the beginning and at the end. At the beginning and at the end. And identify your target customer group. Who are you pitching to? Are they investors? Are they lenders? Is it the university? Is it a potential customer? Based on a particular audience, you adjust your presentation towards this particular focus group. Now let's take a look at the outline. This is the typical outline. You should not go through it all one by one, but you should be able to answer all of these questions. And based on the availability of the investor that you're going to meet, you just adjust it and reduce and condense the message that you have. It starts with a quick key facts, then the problem that needs to be solved. It's not just problems, but problems that need to be solved. It has a particular message. If it's a problem that nobody actually cares about, then you don't have a business idea. So it's a problem that needs to be solved, and then your solution to solve the problem, followed by the team, market opportunity, etc. We're going to go through one at a time. You start with the quick key facts. Unlike textbooks or what business schools teach you, it's not about an executive summary. Don't cut it and paste it. It's really about quick key facts. You focus only on the meat of the business. Get rid of all the fluff. So start with number one. Start with why you have a really great business idea from the customer's point of view. This is a typical compelling story that you hear from your customers. Explain why you have. Explain why you really have a great business idea that would change the world. This normally is a 1 or 2 sentence where you set the stage for the rest of the presentation. This 1 or 2 sentence will set the rest of the presentation. Explain how unique your product is to solve a particular problem. And everything should be fact-based. That's why it's not cutting, pasting of the slides that are coming up. But focus on the meat of the business. Focus only on the key quick facts, which are what is the issue that you're solving, what is the how are you going to solve this, how are you going to solve the solution. And if you have some big names, or customers, etc., state it right in the beginning. But don't expect the audience to discover that you have 2 Nobel laureates as your advisory board 6 slides later. You know why? You might never get there. You might never get there if you don't put it up front. Quick, key facts. Very, very important. At the end, I want the investor to say, now you have my attention, now I want to know more. This is your first slide. 30 seconds to 45 seconds, maximum a minute. Maximum a minute. This is even if you have a 1 hour meeting with an investor or 2 hours, they actually will give you the first 1 minute. If you convince them the first minute, they're going to give you another 5 minutes. But if you lose them over here, they might be physically there, but then starts the bad pretending that we talked about earlier. They're going to do their emails. They're going to do their emails checking and writing SMS and make some phone calls. This is the single most important slide. Make sure it's about the quick key facts, not an executive summary. It's focusing only about the facts. The next is about the problems that needs to be solved. Problems that needs to be solved. This is where you should spend most time on it. Even whether your product is available, whether you have an IP ready or not, there is a reason why you exist. And this is where you have to deliver the message. Make clear that it's a big and important problem out there that you are going to solve. You're going to either increase revenues, reduce the costs, increase the quality, increase the efficiency, increase the quality of service. Anything that you might going to do to solve the problem, state it up front. And prove everything you need, everything you say you need to prove. Don't see anything hypothetical. Prove everything what you say. Prove that there is a definite customer need from the customer's point of view. And make sure that the problems to be solved are from your customer's top need to have, not just a nice to have. If it's a need to have solution, it's a higher valuation, lower risk, and lower behavior change. Particularly the last is important, behavior change. We are human beings. We have our daily routine. We don't want to change. So you want to make sure that you really have a lower behavior change. But if it's just a nice to have, guess what? Lower valuation, higher risk, and higher behavior change. Yeah? Make sure that the problem that you're gonna solve, it's on your customer's top need to have, not just a nice to have. Otherwise, they're going to tell you, oh, that's nice to have. Come back when you develop the product, or as I call it, come back when you grow up. The next is your solution. Don't get too details on it. Explain what you do. Are you producing hardware, software, service, solution, whatever that is? Explain it from the customer's point of view again. I know most people, they love their baby, so they're going to explain how beautiful the baby is. But believe me, the investor doesn't care about the beauty of the baby. They care how to make money. That's the only thing that they know. They know numbers. Yeah? They know numbers. Explain what it is. Describe it and use illustration. If you have IP, mention it. If you have revenues, mention it. If you don't have revenues in customer, you have to mention when you will get it. You either have revenues when you go to investors. If you don't have revenues, you better have to know when you will get it, and you have to prove it when you're going to get it by showing a letter of intent, memorandum of understanding, any kind of facts, no theory. Remember, 95%, 90-95% of all startups fail in the first 3 years. So the moment you get in, they see a failure. Sorry to say that, but they're seeing failure. So you have to convince them, we are one of the 5%. And the only way to show it is by proving it. So explain here, are you a medicine or are you vitamin? I'm bleeding now, as I always use an example, I'm bleeding now from the neck. Are you selling me a medicine or vitamin? If you're just selling me vitamin that helps me to generate more blood because I'm losing a lot of blood, that's probably nice to have. But if you have a medicine that stops right away the bleeding, that is a need to have. Yeah? That is a need to have. And the best way to figure out whether it's a nice to have or need to have is you go to customers and actually ask them, how much are you ready to pay money? If they say, no, come back when you grow up or come back when your product is developed, that's probably more or less nice to have. But if they said you identified a real urgent need, at least let's sign an MOU, a pre-order, or whatever it is, that is a real proof. So we talk about the problem. There's a big and important problem out there. We talk about a solution, how you're going to solve the solution. And now comes the most important, which is why you will succeed. You will succeed not because of this problem, not because of the solution, but because of the team. That is why you're going to succeed. So in the team, explain your team's background, how they are relevant to the business. Don't explain that you have a combined experience of 48 years, for example, of widget development. It has no meaning if you go out and say, our team has 48 years of experience in widget development. It has no meaning. But if you say, my CTO was the chief widget developer at Microsoft, Intel, or etc., that has a meaning. Or if you say, she was on the original IEEE standard committee for ARC widget, that has a meaning. Or she was a senior sales executive and generated more than X amount of real or dollars revenues for another company in a related business, this has a meaning. But if you just say, oh, we have X amount of number of combined experience that has no relevancy to the actual business, it has no meaning. It has no meaning. Everything you do must go back to the problem. Everything starts with a problem. Every slide that comes afterwards, you must go back and show how it interrelates to each other, whether it's a solution, or whether it's a team, or whether it's a market opportunity, etc. If you can't trace it back, then you actually don't have a business. You don't have a solid business. Very, very important. Team. At the end, as mentioned before, the way investor thinks when they go through it, the tipping point is always the team. The team is always a tipping point. Let's talk about the market opportunity. In the market opportunity, you put down the market size, the market trends, you use graphics and etc. What you do is you use a bottom-up approach. 95% of companies, when you go to investors, they say Gartner Group estimated the market opportunity for $50 billion, which has actually no meaning because it's a top-down analysis. It has no meaning. You have to really do bottom-up by identifying potential customers who are similar, what other potential customers are out there through your network and other networks, how many of them can you actually penetrate. That's the way to do a bottom-up planning. Describe and especially prove that they are customers. Describe who are your primary and secondary customers. What are they doing? How much will they pay? What are they doing right now? And prove everything that you do. Prove it with customer statements. Prove, remember, investors are very, very pessimistic and they are focusing on potential risks. So you have to take off every little point. If you prove everything, they're going to take you more serious. But if you just talk abstractly or try to use words that nobody actually understands, it has no meaning. Yeah? Prove everything, every statement that you do. And the market opportunity, what you can do is you check how many potential customers have this problem. Is it few, a lot? How many would are there now? How many would if they would have your solution? And how much actually do they care? It goes up to how much at the end of the day would they pay you for your solution. And the way you graphically organize it is very simple. You use the total available market. It's a big chart. It's like a pie. You go to a party and then there's a big pie. That's the total available market. Yeah? And then out of that pie, you take out your served available market. The served available market is your piece. Your piece out of that big pie is your piece. Last night we had dinner, so we got a little bit dessert. So the piece that you get for your own table. And then what you do is you look at the share of the market, which means your business. Very realistically, how much revenues can you generate in the next 3 years? Which means out of the plate that you took for yourself, how much can you really actually eat? Because in most cases, you can't eat everything, right? That's how you organize a market opportunity. It's a total available market, the served available market, and how much can you actually eat the first 3 years. That is called the shared, your share of the market. And then comes competition. No matter what you think, there's always a competition. There is always a competition. And by the way, at least you're competing with the current way of business. I hear many entrepreneurs say, we are the first, there's no competition at all. Yeah, well, maybe there is a reason why there's no competition, because it's not worth to be in that business, right? So never say there's no competition. Competition is good. It shows actually there's a market opportunity. Yeah? It shows there's a market opportunity and you're not going after a suicide approach. Competition is good. I know we are taught something different. You have to compete with the competition. You have to find ways where there's no competition, all this stuff. But in the real world, it's a little bit different. So what you do is you use a competitive analysis to something like here. You put down the criteria, again, not from your perspective, but from the customer's point of view. What are the key criteria from the customer's point of view? And then you put down your competition and at the end yourself. And don't say, we are the best in everything. Don't make everything full coverage where you are. I saw many presentations that say, we cover everything, which is actually not true. Nobody covers everything. Even the market leader, Apple or what, any kind of industry, nobody covers everything. Just pick up the most important criteria from the customer's point of view and focus where is your really competitive advantage. Why are you so unique and why will you succeed? And then it's the business model. Business model, John Magretta once said, a good business model begins with the insight of human motivations, understanding how humans think and how humans tick. And at the end of the day, it ends up with a rich stream of profits. No, we have money here, not today. In money. So the business model, without going into detail, this is the business model canvas. It actually shows how a company creates, delivers, captures value. It's very simple, relevant, intuitive, understandable. We at Cubic, we use it not only for the startups, but as well for the scale-ups. Everything we do, we start with a customer segment, then there's value proposition, the offering, then the infrastructure, that's part of the key partners, activities, and resources, and down the finance. You just have to make sure that the right side of the theater weights more than the left side, because left side is the cost. If you want to make more customers and therefore more revenues, more than the cost side that you have. Very, very simple without going into the details. Tomorrow in the session, how to successfully start a company by number one, as we said, you burn a business plan, we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And these are some of the typical revenue models. It's a product, the services that you sell, it's a transaction, subscription model, license model, advertising model. So when you come up with a new business model, that means not just having a new product, but a new actual revenue model. You can have the same product, but you just sell it differently. You sell it differently to different customer segments. Yeah? You sell it differently to different customer segments. Actually, most successful entrepreneurs, they use proven business models and adapt it and customize it to the local market, and then afterwards expand it more regionally. This is an example of a revenue model. Very simple. Let's call a company called Akadox. They're doing an e-learning platform. What they do is software as a service. They have the platform. They provide a platform for the students and the faculties. And they're getting input from content input from free content providers and from different universities. This is the content that they get. They're putting down a platform together, put social media and other activities, and then giving access to students and faculty members. This is what they do. And in return, the university, the institutions, they're paying them 25 Qatar riyals per student per course. Very simple. The users are students and faculties, and those who are paying is the actual institution. And on top of it, while the students are using it, they're gathering the learning intelligence and provide them feedback to the faculty member and the institution's free basic intelligence services. Something similar to LinkedIn, where you have basic services for free, and for the advanced, you pay a premium for it. And then at the later stage, you charge for publishers to sell the content over the platform via a particular transaction fee. It's just something very simple, straightforward. What you then do is you put down your financials. Before you put down the specific numbers, you put down the assumptions. Assumptions such as this startup went live with a pilot users in 2010 at the University X for free, just to test it out. The next semester, they went live with 3 other universities at a 25 Qatar Riyal per student per course, and then they introduced the technology each semester to new universities and penetrated more the existing install base, which means those institutions that already use it. And this is some numbers, operational assumptions. You take your operational assumption and you come up with your income statement. The income statement should be just simple and rounded. Unfortunately, many pitches have the following numbers. At the year 5, they are expecting in year 5 to generate 25,500,000, 534,000, and 53 halala. Use simple and rounded numbers. The investor don't care how much sensor, etc. you're going to do. Most of these projects are not accurate anyway. So just use simple and rounded numbers. Don't get too detailed on it. Put down on top how big the market can be, which is revenues, and below, what is that you actually need, the capital needed in order to reach there. In this example, it's to 5 million. The key messages is we're raising 500,000. We're raising 500,000 in order to be break-even in 2012 and generating 25 million in 2013. 13. To do so, you take the 500,000 that you're raising now, and you have to break it down in the use of funds. Very simple. You put down the personal compensation, the development cost, the sales and G&A cost, general and administrative cost. Very, very important. When you ask for money, you have to show what you're going to do with the money. Yeah. In the slide before, you showed them how big this market can be, and then below you show them what is actually do you need in order to get there. And then it's the product starter, or the company status. You have to be ready to talk about your product, your customers that you have, your suppliers, the team. What is the current status of your company? And then you put down your milestones. Milestones, you put it down, you list them down, something similar to here, and then you put it into a graph in order to show the different activities that include the specific functions, durations, linkage, etc., and as well the milestones. So you can see all of them, how they're actually interrelated with each other. Yeah? And this is the last slide, how to pitch. Now, before we talk about what to pitch, before we talk about how to pitch, is the risks. At the end, they're going to ask these kind of questions. And how are you going to actually manage? What happens if the market changes, your competition? What happens if the technology operations changes? What happens if you don't raise money next round? What happens if your core team members leaves you? What are you going to do? What is your plan B, etc.? Now it's Eva's time. Except for our Quebec entrepreneurs, what is the message in here? What is the message in here? Think. Halfway through? No. Get rid of the fluff. Exactly. And focus on the meat of the business. Is that answer as well? We do today Man's first because she's a Quebec entrepreneur. You get a prize? Yeah? Excellent. Get rid of the fluff and focus on the meat of the business. Now let's talk about how to pitch. We talk about what to pitch, and now we're going to talk about how to pitch. I don't know any better person to actually analyze how he pitched. Steve Jobs is probably one of the best presenters ever. And let's learn from his secrets, how he's really insanely great to any audience. So the way he did it was he always uses 3 elements. In this case, 3 acts. Everything he did was always based on the number 3, the magic number 3. If you remember when he introduced the iPhone, he said, today we're going to announce 3 products. Number 1, a widescreen iPod with widescreen touch system. The second is a revolutionary new mobile phone. And third, an awesome internet access device. These 3 products is going to be the focus of today's presentation. And everybody was clapping. And then he said, these are 3 products, but they're not 3 different products. It's just 1 product. So just a magic number of 3 that he always uses. We're going to talk about first, create a story, deliver an experience. Unlike textbook, when they teach you, you have to deliver the message. Not actually about the message, but you should deliver an experience and making sure that the audience not just hears you, but they feel you. You understand? They should feel you, not just hear you, but they should feel you. And today we're going to talk about it and rehearsing of this game. Act number 1. Steve Jobs, he was inspired something beyond making money. You should go out and do something really awesome. When you go home in the evening, you should say, I did something really awesome. I did something wonderful tonight. I did something wonderful today. So be motivated, something that goes way, way beyond making money. So in his case, he was really inspired to change the world. And in 1984, some of you were not born, Sheikha. Some of you, I didn't say that. So in 1984, he unveiled the first Macintosh. In 1984, he unveiled the first Macintosh. And until today, it remains as one of the most dramatic presentations in corporate history. Just see the presentation.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. secure from the pests of a contradictory force. Our unification as a force is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves
Obviously
away,
IBM, right?
but we
You
will
understand
fight
it's IBM.
their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Until today, that's the most dramatic presentation in corporate history. Before you start with your presentation, before you pick up your PowerPoint or Keynote, etc., have a story to tell. Remember how many times I used you have to deliver a compelling story, a compelling story. So before you start, have a compelling story. And the way you do it is start with a Twitter-like headline. Very simple, a Twitter-like headline. That's your job number one. Find a Twitter-like headline, very short and precise. In MacBook Air, the headline was the world's thinniest notebook. Very simple. The world's thinniest notebook. And an iPod was 1,000 songs in your pocket. Very simple. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Let's analyze a little bit more in detail. When you create a story, like in all the stories that we see in the movies and etc., the hero always fights against the enemy. So in this case, what you do is you start with the problem, with the antagonist. Once you highlight the problem, automatically the audience relates towards the hero, which is the Macintosh. Yeah, which is the Macintosh. Have a simple story to tell, a very, very simple story to tell. And now we're going to talk about how to deliver not a message, but how to deliver an experience. Once you develop the story, now it's about how to deliver an experience. This is Act 2. In Act 2, it's very important to understand what Steve Jobs mentioned as simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. If you can't make it so simple that even your grandmother understands it, you know what? You didn't understand your business. Let me just say it again. If you can make it simple, and if you can't deliver the experience so that your even grandmother would understand it, that means you actually haven't understood your business. So Steve Jobs, in all his presentations, he never used a bullet point. He never used a bullet point. Bullets actually there for weapons, not for slides. Yeah? He never used a bullet point. Very interesting. Forget about putting down a long sentence and etc. There was a research done that says that information, if they are presented orally, around, let's say 10% would remember the next 72 hours. Only 10% people would remember. But that number significantly increases to 65% if you add a picture, an image. If you add an image. Research showed that if you just use simple image, people will actually remember it. It's called the picture superiority effect. I can see it by myself. If I see a picture, I will remember. If I see a lot of words, I will get lost. So don't put down a lot of sentence on a paragraph, etc. Use lesser words. The lesser you use, the better it is. It takes much more, but it's much more effective. And then you need to simplify complex information. Very, very, very important. Simplify complex information. When the MacBook Air came out in 2008, this is how media creates just a regular presenter would pitch the new MacBook Air. They would put down all the technical details in one slide to make sure he didn't miss any important information. This is how most people would actually have pitched it. They would have said something like, Welcome everybody. We are really excited to introduce you today the light and really thin notebook processor. It has 13.3-inch widescreen display, keyboard, Intel processor, blah, 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 blah. This is what most of us would probably will do, which is not good, which is okay. It's actually, oh no, we don't want to do it that way. What you need to do is you need to create the moment, or if we just cut it off, we said the holy-ish moment, the real moment that everybody will talk about. You have to create that moment that everybody will talk about and never forget. In this case, this is the slide that Steve Jobs used. Look at this slide. Look at this slide. How many words did he use for this slide? Do you see any word? No words at all. Not a PowerPoint slide at all. He didn't use any slide. Why would you use a slide if you're simply trying to deliver the message, deliver the experience, which is, it is so thin that it fits even in an office envelope. He uses this picture, and he delivered an experience that is meaningful to the whole audience, because all of us know how it feels in an office envelope. You know the size. We all had it in our hand. So without actually touching it, we could feel it. We could feel we could feel his message. And it was simple to remember. He used no words. He just held it and was quiet for a couple of seconds. And he was quiet for a couple of seconds. The reason is he wanted the audience to feel the experience. And the audience was quiet, because at that moment, they really felt it. It is so thin that it fits into an office envelope. Try it yourself. It will take a much longer time. It's much more complex. But if you don't do it, you will never deliver an Apple-like experience as Steve Jobs did. This is the way he did it. So the way he created the experience was the following. He knew exactly when he prepared for the presentation, he knew when the moment was there. When he introduced the world's thinnest airbook, at that moment he knew everybody would be quiet and talking about it. He knew that this was the key moment. And in your pitch, you need to identify what is the moment in your pitch. What is the what is the moment in your own pitch? It takes much more time. It takes a long time to prepare. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an awesome and insanely great presentation if you do it that way. Seattle Post Intelligence, they ran a transcript between Steve Jobs and the enemy, Bill Gates. And then they ran a transcript about how they talk, what kind of words did they use, how many words did they use, and the audience, what kind of educational level do you need to have in order to actually understand what they are saying. And the outcome was Steve Jobs' message that he delivered was not only simpler, but it was not only less abstract, but he used significant fewer words. He used significant fewer words, and he used simple messages, simple words that anybody would understand, And this is what you need to do in your presentation. Don't be too technical. Don't use words that nobody understands. Don't try to show off that you use acronyms that nobody actually understands it. Take it the opposite. Use just simple words. And then you have to dress up the numbers. Numbers has no meaning for the audience unless you put it in the right context and unless you make them relevant for something that they already are familiar with. Let me say again, dress up your numbers. The numbers has a meaning for you, but for most audience, it has no meaning at all unless you put it into the right context and unless you compare it with something that people already are familiar with. Yeah? And here's an example. In 2001, when Steve Jobs introduced the iPod, he said the iPod comes with 5 gigabyte memory. And then he broke it even further down. He said it's something like 1,000 songs, so small that you can actually put it in your pocket. And then the camera showed how he took the iPad, put it in his pocket. And then he was quiet again. And the audience felt it. Yeah? The audience felt it. So 5 gigabyte at that time, for many people it had a meaning, but for most people it had no meaning. So he broke it down. 5 gigabyte, it is like 1,000 songs. And everybody knew how much, what songs are. It's 1,000 songs, so small you can put it actually in your pocket. So he dressed up the numbers to give it meaning, and it's exactly what you need to do in your business presentation. Or another example, Rolling Stone magazine asked Steve Jobs what he thinks about that the market share of Apple is actually stuck at 5%. What he did was he gave a meaning to the 5%. What he said was our market share is actually greater than Mercedes or BMW, and nobody thinks that they're going to go away. And actually, they are cool products. They are really cool products. So he gave a meaning to the 5%, to something that people are familiar with. 5% sounds like, oh, it's small. But if you give a meaning like it's greater than Mercedes or BMW, people would understand, okay. And not only that, but nobody expected people expected to be there for a long time. So dress up the numbers, give them a meaning. At the end, people will forget what you said. I hope you will not forget what I said. They will also forget what you did. But they will never forget how you made them feel. They will never forget how you made them feel. Last but not least is refining and rehearsing. This is Act 3. He had a master stage presence. His voice, his gauge, his body language, it really communicated 3 things: authority, confidence, and energy. Authority, confidence, and energy. The way he looked at the people, his open gesture, his hand gesture, that showed really authority, credibility, energy. Amazing. There was a research done by Cisco that found out that the body language and the vocal tone, if you raise your voice or reduce it, and it actually has impact on how people perceive it. So they identified that 63% of the body language and the vocal tone has a significant influence in how people communicate and remember. But to do so, you need to practice, 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 and practice again. Before any presentation, Steve Jobs would rehearse 2 full days and would ask his product managers for feedback. For 2 full days, for 48 hours, he would do nothing then, just rehearsing, and getting feedback from his product managers in order to deliver the best experience that is Apple-worthy like. And then one more thing is you have to have fun. When you come to the audience expect actually 2 things. They want to be informed of something new, and they also want to be entertained. So, and he understood it. He always delivered an infotainment. Every time he went there and pitched, he told something new. He taught the audience something new, and he had really fun in doing so. So this is the presentation of what we want to do today. Before we open up for Q&A, we have 2 questions. If you answer the 2 questions, you will also get a present. And an announcement, exactly. So, when was do you remember the year that Apple introduced the first Macintosh? Who was the first? I think she was the first. I think she was in the middle?
Me?
Yeah. I know, but she raised the first question. There in the middle. And another question is, what are the 4 elements that an investor goes through before he or she makes a final decision? Remember the 4 elements that they just add the plus and minus together?
I think it was the product, the risk, the valuation, and the risk. And then you have
Product is right, the risk is right, as the perceived risk is right.
And
These are 2 out of 2. We have to give her the first chance.
okay.
Okay. Who was the second one? Where? Behind? Was it behind? Market attraction. The product differentiation. The risk involved. Excellent.
I have to get half of that.
Before we open up for Q&A, we at Qatar Business Incubation Center, our objective is, as you can see over here and outside, to develop the next 100 million Qatar Riyal companies. We started in May, and to do so, we're serving our entrepreneurs by providing coaching services, financial assistance, etc., as a package we call a lean startup, and at the same time, the lean scale up. These are for young established companies to help them to scale up. We have, in a few weeks, our demo day coming up, and the demo day will be on December 9 at 2:30 at Quebec, and all of you are more than welcome to join. And we're going to send you emails to announce it. But more important is about you. Any questions?
You are talking about the team, which is actually the investor will give more importance.
Yeah.
And what about the share pattern, whether of the team, of the co-founders, whether investor will look that area?
So yeah, it's the way you as founders agree to each other. There's no formalistic formula that you actually can use. At the end of the day, is what is the agreement with the other founders? So if you are the actual founder, then you need to figure out what is the value that the other person would contribute to the business in the long term. And then it's a simple negotiation. Things that make really sense. But your objective should not be maximizing your percentage within your core team, but make sure that you have a solid team. If you find out, for you it's probably better to reduce your share, but at the end to have a functional team rather than trying to get maximum percentage of the company. What I called, you get 100% of nothing. I rather prefer 20% or 30% of something rather than 100% of nothing. So it must be always a win-win situation. When you negotiate with your partner, and if you go into the negotiation and say, I want to have the maximum and I'm just giving you the rest, that's not going to be a relationship. Because at the end of the day, it must be a win-win situation. And the key person or the key people, investor will ask you, how do you going to make sure that the person is going to stick around? So the really key person must have a financial incentive, financial or other kind of incentive that the person will stick around. It's very, very important. Otherwise, as an investor, if I see that the key person within your company has a lesser percentage than somebody else, then the investor might think that person might leave sooner or later. So it's very important to give the key person the right incentive model. And that's based on how you're going to agree. As long as it's a win-win situation, it's the most important.
Okay. One more question is that we have different kind of investors, like seed fund.
A little louder.
Different kind of investors we have, like
Yes.
seed fund providers and serial investors. So the same presentation we can give for all kind of investors, or
the basics is the same. The higher amount you ask, the higher the expectation they have. Yeah? So you cannot go there just with an idea and say, I want to have so much money, but I don't have anything. So tomorrow we're going to actually talk about, as for the startup, how you could generate revenues without any funding. Unfortunately, we are told in business schools and textbooks that the first thing that you need to do is developing a business plan, and once you develop a business plan, then you go out and raise money, and you magically get money. All of them is theories, nothing is real. And once you have money, the first thing what you're going to do is getting rid of the money by spending it. Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how to actually reverse the trend and start from the end, which means doing customer validation first before you develop a product or develop your business plan.
I have two questions. First question,
Mic up.
yeah, it's about when you pitch to investors. Is it good to talk about the exit strategy?
They will ask you for an exit strategy.
And what is the recommended best exit strategies? I know it depends on the business, but from your experience.
It depends on what is the founding team member, what is the expectation. So one thing is you should never say, I don't want to sell the company, I want to stick in the company for the rest of my life. Don't do it because it's not yours, it's objectively, it's the company. And you have to know that most great entrepreneurs who start a company are not the ones who's going to run afterwards in the long term. Because at each stage of the company, you need different kind of skills. So you as a founding CEO, it should be your responsibility, and you should want it to look for a better person who can run the company once you grow. The moment you say, I'm going to stick around and I will be running the next 10 or 20 years, inshallah you will, but I believe it's a wrong approach. You always have to look for somebody who's better than you, who can help to make the company scaling faster and more profitable.
Yeah, but what about if someone comes and offer to buy a business and it's only very good?
Yeah.
So what's the decision?
It depends on you. Do you need the money to exit? If you need the money, you exit. If you don't need the money, you just say why you want to stick around longer. It depends on your personal situation. Some people might prefer to sell the company and start the next company. Some others might say, I will not sell at this moment because I want to further increase the valuation of the company. The more you profitably scale, the higher valuation, and then you sell at the later stage. So there's no right or wrong. But that selling at the later stage at the higher price might be theory because you might never get there. So that's why it depends always on your particular. The most important, it depends on the founding team members. It depends on what you guys want. Do you want to focus on it and make it bigger, or do you want, for example, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Create a company, exit to the next. Create a company, exit to the next. It depends on your personal choice.
The second question is, if you have like intangible product or service, and you would like the people to feel this, so it's a challenge. It doesn't work then. What happened with Apple product or what Steve Jobs did. So how you can
Give me an example. Let's be, as I said, be specific.
Right. Okay. For example, maybe you are talking about new technology and like let's say about how to make the internet faster. Okay. For example, like IP, it's similar, and the people like don't have experience about this, or the investors you are trying to deliver the message to them.
So join us tomorrow at 10 o'clock. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. You should actually not go to investors in the first place. If you start a company, you should not go to investors because the likelihood that you're going to get investment is very, very low. Instead of doing it traditionally, doing a business plan, finding an investor, and then spending the money by developing a product, and then afterwards looking for customers, we're going to teach you how to do it in the opposite way. You start first with customer validation. You go out and number one, you go out and listen to your customers. You listen in order to validate, yet you understood the right pain that is out there. Once you identify there's real pain out there, you go back and you develop something like what we call an MVP. Simple mock-up on a PowerPoint presentation, a simulation, or use 3D printer, or anything, a kind of a simulation on the conceptual basis. And then you go to your customer and you validate. You say, is this what you want? Most likely they will say, no, but if you change this to here and this and back, and then you go back and then you establish a relationship. Yeah? Until in the end they say, this is exactly what I want. And then you actually can go out and raise money. Or the best is if you can get down payment from the client, you can actually use that money in order to develop the product. And that's the focus of tomorrow we're going to talk about. How to successfully start a company by focusing entirely on customer validation rather than focusing on an investor or a business plan. Okay, thank you. 10 o'clock? Any other question? Thank you.